It was actually right around this time. It was Thanksgiving time when we were up in the mountains in Burnsville, North Carolina. And we just felt like it was time. So we were in Fort Lauderdale. We were on staff at the Calvary Chapel down there at the Boca Raton campus. And, you know, when we first went down, it was supposed to be about a 5-year kind of on-the-job training process, and it was only, I think, 18 months into this time down there. And we were up in the mountains, and God just started, you know, we were asking the Lord for direction and wisdom, and we just really felt Him starting to stir us to come back to start the church. And so after that vacation, we went back to Fort Lauderdale, called our pastor, and said, man, I think God's like speeding up the process. I think we're supposed to go back. And so with wisdom, he said, hey, all right, take another week and pray about it and ask the Lord for continued confirmation. And sure enough, it was, of all places, it was Omaha, Nebraska, the West Road shooting, a 19-year-old young man, confused and held captive by the enemy, kills some people, shoots himself. And so sure, a week later I called my pastor, and that had made national news. He's like, I don't need any more further confirmation. That's literally what he said. Hey Todd, I don't need any more confirmation. And that 19-year-old represents an entire generation that you and Denise are called to go reach.
So tell us how this whole thing started. You get back to Omaha and...
Yeah, it was crazy. We get back and we're stoked to start the church, but you know, we couldn't have it in the house, man. There's too many people that were interested. So we were praying about the Lord. You know, we were asking the Lord for direction on where to start it. And you know, it was February, man. It was like -20, so my tires on my car, they were used to Florida, man. They were running low, so I popped into this Jensen Tire and Auto, 156 in Dodge right here. I remember it, just like it was yesterday. And got the tires all sheared up. And afterwards, you know, we ended up, you know, popping out of this driveway area and got back on 156, and we were heading, would that be south 156? And right to the right was Peter Kiewit Middle School, which was my old middle school. And I just felt the Holy Spirit say, take a right, go check it out.
We came here to plant this church. Our first day was Easter. And I just look over, homeboy's just putting up chairs. No one, I didn't say anything to him. No one asked him, no one called. That's the cool thing. When we showed up here, we just prayed. We go, Lord, I'm clueless on music, I'm clueless on all these little things. I love your word and I love to teach it. Can you bring a team together of servants that will serve you?
Yeah, it was wild. God started the church. There was early momentum, all kinds of people coming to Christ, relationships getting formed, small groups replicating, outreach. It was pretty wild. And then, man, it must have been a year after that. Yeah, I think it was just a year into our time at Kiewit. I was at a Millard North high school football game, and Brian Begley, a friend of mine, the principal there, really good dude, he had heard that we had started the church at Kiewit, and he's like, hey man, when you outgrow Kiewit, give me a call and come up the hill. And sure enough, it was within a couple months. And I called him back and I said, man, if that offer is still available, please let me know. And man, been so gracious. So we moved on up, man, which is also where I went to school. So we graduated from Kiewit to Millard North, and we were there for over a decade. And God continued to work, man. And year after year, you just saw God continue to grow the church. Many people coming to Christ, marriages restored, and powerful work that He has done throughout the years. And we knew eventually, we kept on praying about what was next. What's next, Lord? And where do you want us to eventually call home? Where's our first permanent location? And so we took several years to pray and to fast and ask the Lord for wisdom, and He was gracious, and it was about, I think, 4 or 5 years ago now. I was driving down 204th between Center and Pacific, and I just, once again, it was similar to that Kiewit, where I just felt a nudge from the Holy Spirit to call on this land. And the first time I called, it was way out of our budget. It was literally 3 times the amount what we could pay for land to eventually start to build a building. And so I'm like, well, okay, obviously God hasn't opened that door. And that whole year, something wouldn't settle in my heart, and I kept on going back to, I really think this is the land we're supposed to have. So I actually called a year later, and they said, oh, that land that is priced at that amount is the land that's right on 204th Street. But if you're willing to go a block or 2 back by the grocery store, that's a third of the price. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I wish I would have known this a year ago. I was like, let me bring it to the board, and the board was stoked about it, and we okayed it. And by God's grace, been working with a great bank that was willing to take the risk on a new church to buy that land, and it's been a steady process ever since. And here we are, man. Here we are on the cusp of breaking the building in. It's pretty powerful.